Good evening and welcome to Global Lens News. I'm Sadia Afzal. The United States Supreme Court has once again found itself at the center of American politics. For decades, the court has been described as the guardian of the Constitution, the institution that interprets the law independently of political pressure. But its latest decisions have sparked one of the biggest constitutional debates in recent American history. Supporters say the court is restoring the constitutional powers of the presidency. Critics argue it is expanding executive authority at the expense of long-standing institutional checks and balances. The question now being asked across America is simple. Is the United States entering a new constitutional era, or is it simply returning to the original version of executive power envisioned by the country's founders? To understand today's debate, we must first understand the role of the Supreme Court. Unlike many countries, the US Supreme Court has the final authority to interpret the Constitution. Its rulings can overturn laws passed by Congress, block presidential actions, or redefine how the Constitution is applied. Its decisions often shape American society for generations. This week, several landmark rulings placed the court firmly in the political spotlight. Perhaps the most significant decision involved the president's authority over independent federal agencies. In a 6-3 ruling, the court concluded that the president has broader authority to remove leaders of certain independent agencies, overturning decades of legal precedent. Supporters say elected presidents should have greater control over the executive branch. Critics warned the decision could reduce the independence of regulators responsible for overseeing competition, labor relations, and consumer protection. The decision immediately triggered debate over the balance between presidential authority and institutional independence. Some constitutional scholars describe it as one of the most consequential expansions of executive power in decades. Others argue it merely restores democratic accountability because voters elect the president, not independent regulators. Another closely watched decision involved mail-in voting. The court upheld a Mississippi law allowing ballots postmarked by Election Day to be counted if they arrive several days later, rejecting a Republican-backed challenge. Supporters view the ruling as protecting eligible voters, while opponents argue it weakens confidence in election administration. The ruling illustrates an important point about the current court. Although many observers describe it as conservative, its decisions do not always align with the political preferences of either party. In another major development, the court declined to hear President Trump's appeal seeking to overturn the civil judgment in the E. Jean Carroll case, allowing the lower court's decision to stand. Digital privacy also emerged as a defining issue. For the first time, the Supreme Court directly addressed the growing use of geofence warrants. These warrants allow investigators to seek location data from technology companies for devices that were present near a crime scene. The court recognized that obtaining such location information raises Fourth Amendment privacy concerns and returned the case for further legal analysis rather than giving law enforcement unrestricted authority. Privacy advocates call the decision a significant step for digital rights, while prosecutors argue such tools remain important for solving serious crimes. Another highly anticipated case has not yet been decided. The court is expected to rule on President Trump's executive order concerning birthright citizenship. The decision could become one of the most consequential constitutional rulings in modern American history because it concerns the interpretation of the 14th Amendment, which has guaranteed birthright citizenship for more than 150 years. Taken together, these cases reveal something much larger than individual legal disputes. They reflect a fundamental debate over the future of American government. How much authority should a president possess? How independent should federal institutions remain? How should privacy rights evolve in the digital age? How should elections balance accessibility with public confidence? And how should the Constitution be interpreted in a rapidly changing society? These questions extend beyond party politics. They shape the relationship between citizens and the state. They influence how businesses are regulated, how elections are conducted, how technology companies operate, and how constitutional rights are protected. The Supreme Court itself has become a political issue. Some Americans believe the court is faithfully interpreting the Constitution as written. Others believe judicial appointments have made the court increasingly ideological. Calls for Supreme Court reform, ethics rules, and even changes to the appointment process have grown louder in recent years. Yet, despite these disagreements, one reality remains unchanged. No institution in America has greater authority to define the meaning of the Constitution than the Supreme Court. Its rulings do not merely resolve legal disputes. They shape public policy, redefine government powers, and influence the direction of the world's most powerful democracy. As the United States approaches its 250th anniversary, the Supreme Court's recent decisions highlight a broader national conversation. How should power be divided between the President, Congress, and the courts? How should constitutional principles adapt to modern challenges? And perhaps, most importantly, can America preserve its constitutional system while navigating one of the most politically polarized periods in its history? The answers to these questions will not be determined by a single ruling, but history may well remember this term of the Supreme Court as one that helped redefine the balance of power in 21st century America.